Now that we know the basic terms, let's get familiar with the Power Automate user interface. Most Power Automate flows are crafted from the Power Automate web interface, which is called the Power Automate Maker portal, and you can find it at make.powerautomate.com. There is also a desktop tool for desktop flows called Power Automate Desktop, and we will showcase it later in this course when we'll cover desktop flows. Finally, Power Automate also offers a mobile app for both iOS and Android, which allows you to see your flow runs, you can use it to respond to approvals, and you can even create or start flows from the mobile app. Let's first focus on the Power Automate Maker portal. Once you go to make.powerautomate.com, if you want to see your flows, you need to go to My Flows on the left side navigation. You then have 3 tabs at the top. The first one is called Cloud Flows, and here is where you will find all of the different cloud flows that you have created that you have not shared with anyone. The second tab are the desktop flows, which remember are for robotic process automation. And finally, under the Shared with Me tab, you will see all the different flows that you have shared with other people or they shared with you. It's important to remember that once, let's say you create the cloud flow, you work on it for a few days, and then you share it with a colleague, it will not show up under Cloud Flows anymore, but it will be under the Shared with Me tab. This has really got me sometimes, as I couldn't find a flow that I was working on last week, but I forgot that I shared it with somebody, and now I need to go to the Shared with Me tab in order to access it. When clicking on the cloud flow, you will see a ton of details about the flow. First, you will see the basic details about the flow, such as the name, the description, the owner, the type, created and modified by dates, and so on. In the middle bottom, you will see the 28-day run history for that flow. You can see how long each flow took to run, if it succeeded or failed, and you can even click on each one of them to see more details. After that, on the top right, you will see the connections or connectors used, and this can really give you a good overflow of what services this Cloudflow connects to. Right underneath, you will see all the owners of that flow, and under that, you have access to the Process Mining Insights, which is a tool that we'll cover a bit later in this course, which allows you to optimize business processes. Finally, you have the associated apps, which is a way to manually specify which Power apps use this flow, which provide greater visibility to everyone involved. Now that we have seen the theory, let's head over to the lab environment and explore the Power Automate user interface. We are now in the lab environment, and let me open up the browser here, where I navigated to make.powerautomate.com. You can either navigate using the URL, or you can go to your Office 365 menu here, and then go to Power Automate. It will bring you to this location. Now, on the Power Automate home screen, a big part of the screen at the top here is taken out for Microsoft Copilot for Power Automate. We will talk about it later in this module, but it's the Microsoft AI assistant to help you create and manage your Power Automate flows. On the homepage, then at the bottom, we do have some Microsoft Learn material for Power Automate. One of the most important pages you will go to are My Flows over here, so let me navigate to the tab, and here at the top, I have the 3 tabs we talked about. First of all, I have all of my cloud flows, then I have my desktop flows, and then the Shared with Me flows. So those are all the flows that either I created and shared with somebody, or somebody else created and they shared them with me. Let's go inside Cloud Flows over here. You'll notice that some of them have a little diamond next to them. That is because those flows use a premium connector. So as soon as a flow uses a premium connector, you will see that little diamond next to the flow name. Same thing for the desktop flows here because they require a license. They have the little diamond next to them, and flows can either be turned on, like the 3 here at the top, or you can see the 3 at the bottom here are turned off. They are grayed out a bit, and they have the little disabled icon at the bottom right. Awesome! Let's focus on some of the flows we have over here. As you can see in the icon of the flow, we see what the trigger is. So we know that for this one and this one, the trigger is when something happens in SharePoint, whereas this one is on the push of a button, so it's an instant flow. At the type of the flow here, which is my third column, I can see if it's an automated flow, an instant flow, or a scheduled flow, which I don't have any of them in here, but if I had any scheduled flows in the type, I would see it's a scheduled flow. Now let's go into the first one. We will give it a few seconds to load, but at the top, I will have all my flow details. So I can see what the flow name is, I can see the description, who is the primary owner, I can see the status, when it got created and modified, I can see the type, as well as what license plan this flow runs under. Without going too deep into licensing, we can have either per user licenses or per flow licenses in Power Automate. So that's why it's important to have this here, especially for flows that use premium connectors. You can know whose license or what type of license does this flow run under. Then in the middle bottom, I have the 28-day run history. You can see that I have one started on April 21st. 2 weeks ago, that took 2 minutes to complete, and it completed successfully. And then I have another one that was also started 2 weeks ago, but it's been running for 14 days. You can always click on them, and then you can see what stage they are on. So you can see this one, when an item got created, is the trigger, and now it's waiting for an approval. Awesome, so we know where it's waiting at. Then at the top right, I have all the different connections that this flow is connecting to. So those are our connectors. As you can see here, we use the Approvals connector, the Office 365 Outlook connector, and the SharePoint connector. Right now, I only have one owner of this flow, which of course, because it appeared in the Cloud Flows tab, so I am the only owner. Then I have my process mining preview. We will talk about process mining towards the end of this course, but it allows me to deep dive into my process and find out, are there any bottlenecks? Do I have any unnecessary logic and things like that? And then at the bottom, I have my associated apps. And right now, I don't have any associated Power Apps with this flow. If you want to edit the properties of the flow, so name, description, things like that, you have the edit button over here. And if you want to edit the flow, the edit button is up here at the top left. Let me click on it, and now I can go edit my flow. In this video, we will only talk about the user interface, and in the next module, we will get our hands dirty and create our own flows. But I wanted to show you, so at the top of every flow, we will have our trigger. So I can see right now, my trigger is when a new item is created in SharePoint. When I click on the trigger, I have the properties that appear on the left, where I can see, for example, in what site and what list is this trigger looking for information. Then I have settings, the code view, as well as about this trigger or about this connector. So you can see all of the properties of the trigger. At the right side of the screen, you have Copilot, which again, the AI assistant, always there to help you, but we will close it for now because let's learn how to do things ourselves before we learn how to use AI to make them better. If you want to zoom in or zoom out, you do have controls over here at the bottom left, so you can zoom in, you can zoom out. Try to use those controls instead of using your browser zoom in, zoom out button. It will be a lot more user-friendly if you use them. And if you want to, let's say I zoom out too much, I always have the fit view option, which will make the whole flow fit into whatever screen size I have. Great! So remember, my trigger is always at the top. Then I have my actions such as start and wait for an approval as an example, or send an email that the purchase was approved in this case, or send an email that the purchase was denied. And then I can also have logic controls such as a condition. Okay, now let's go back to my flows here. I have the back button. Of course, always remember, if you changed anything, make sure you save before you leave. And let's go back to the menu. I also have a tab for approvals if there are any approvals waiting for us. For example, we can go there and see what are all the approvals waiting for us. We have process mining, which we will cover a bit later in this course. We will have all our different connections here on the left as well. So if I go under connections, I will see what are the different services that I'm currently connected to. But this is it for a high-level view of the Power Automate user interface. And remember, this is the Power Automate Maker portal where we mostly go to deal with cloud flows and business process flows. Now that we know the interface, it's time for us to create our own flows, and we will learn to create all types of flows in this course, and we will start with cloud flows in the next module.